Hi, hello, and welcome back to the Purdy Girl podcast, where we talk all about everything from fitness to goal setting to budgeting to health and wellness. And of course, we touch on military life. I started this podcast because I had just experienced my very first PCS, which is just an acronym for the military, meaning that we moved. And well, I was feeling super lonely and I had some time on my hands and thought, what the hell? Why not start a podcast and talk all about this kind of stuff? Before moving here, I worked as a hairstylist and I was having a lot of conversations with military spouses since we lived near JBLM, the base there. And many of them told me they didn't really fit into this mold of like the typical military spouse, and they sort of felt like an outcast. This podcast was made for that woman because I have felt that exact same way. And I think it's good to know you're not alone. Like, you're not the only one out there that feels like this. I'm always listening to podcasts, and there wasn't one that I listened to that talked about being a military spouse and what it's really like. Not only that, but I was craving one that would talked about the military stuff, but that also was like lighthearted and funny and talked about goal setting, all of that stuff. So I thought that I would combine those ideas, and here we are, Purdy Girl Podcast. I think ultimately the kind of individual that listens to PGP is someone that really is looking to improve their life in one way or another. And being a military spouse is just a part of their life. It's not their whole life. And maybe you're not even a military spouse. Maybe you're a stay-at-home mama and you're trying to find your identity again. Or maybe you just got married and moved away from family and you're feeling lonely, looking for some kind of motivation. I started listening to podcasts when I was in the darkest of the darkest place that I've ever been. And I was just looking for a way out of this hole that I had dug myself in. I was so lost and in the midst of a big transition in my life. Sometimes I feel like that's all you need is just sort of a mindset shift and a different perspective in order to see through the fog. And I know that might sound simplistic, and maybe it is simplistic, but I'm telling you, that's what I needed at the time. And I hope this podcast gives you a little something of what you're looking for. I hope it brings you some kind of value, some kind of joy, some kind of spark. So let's move on from that. Welcome to the podcast. That was a really long intro. It's been a week since the election. That is crazy. I feel like it's been an entire year. I don't get into my political views on this podcast just because talking about politics seems to be more divisive than ever, and that's not my goal on here. Me telling you my thoughts on the election for sure isn't going to bring anybody value. Here's the thing though, I actually really like talking about politics. I like hearing what others value and why. I like understanding where people are coming from and why they think the way they think. To me, remaining curious about the situation is much more peaceful and it's a more enjoyable conversation. I never want to be caught in a conversation where I'm trying to change someone's mind or vice versa. That usually isn't constructive, and I typically end up leaving the conversation super frustrated. But that's part of the problem these days, don't you think? Like, most people aren't having constructive conversations with their neighbor or their friend about why they think the way they think. Instead, I'm seeing people get into these fights online with complete strangers. I don't know about you, but I have never seen that end well. It's a total waste of energy, in my opinion. They're not going to change their mind, and some people just want to stay pissed, you know? It's toxic. And you don't need that in your life. But you know what you do need in your life? Tubby Todd. And I have a discount code just for you. How do you like that transition? Such a dork. It's the discount code is for you, Ashley Kelly Purdy. And all of you asking, what is Tubby Todd? Well, Tubby Todd is for tubby time that you can use for your baby. And we have been using the soap and we've been using the all over ointment. And I also used the balm, the nipple balm, after I started nursing with Bella, and it is the best. So if you want 10% off, you can use the code for you, Ashley Kelly Purdy. I just had to throw that in there. But moving on from discount codes and politics and all of that, I want to talk about ending 2020 strong and 3 ways that I plan to do that. But before I get into it, I think it is important for us to just recognize the positive that's come from this year. I think 2020 has really shaken us in a way that we will never be the same. I know it has for me, and not just because I had a baby. Anytime I go through something challenging, I try to look back and ask myself what I learned from it. I think that's the only way to really move forward and to not dwell in the past. And I learned a lot this year. And I'm sure you did too. I don't know one person that this year is just nuts. I'd say the lesson that continues to come up for me is recognizing what is out of my control and making peace with those things. I can't control COVID. I can't control politics, and I couldn't control a lot about even like my pregnancy during COVID and the pandemic, all of that stuff. But I can control my attitude about those things. And just knowing that calms me down. I don't want to give energy to things that I can't control. That'll just drive me crazy. So this podcast is coming out November 10th. That means we have about 7-ish weeks until the end of the year. 7 weeks. We could get a lot done in 7 weeks. And some people might say, Ash, it's the ho-ho holidays. I'm not doing anything. I'm getting drunk at noon. Call me in January. And to that, I say, okay, you do you. Love you. I'll be here for you in January. But I'm feeling good and I'm feeling inspired, motivated. I want to ride that wave. Okay, so 3 things to end the year strong. And I chose the number 3 because 3 isn't scary to me. At first I was like, let's do 5 things. And I'm like, no. 3 is more realistic. And maybe you want to just do 1, or maybe you want to do 2, or 2, 10. I don't care. You do you here. I'm going to do 3. And I came up with 3 categories, okay? Fitness, finances, and fun. I love an alliteration. I like to have a fitness challenge, especially around the holidays. I like a good balance, So I'm like drinking my cocktails, but I'm also getting my run in. I'm eating the cookies, but I'm lifting some weights. Balance. So races are a little hard to come by this year because of COVID, but I think I found a 10K that I'm going to commit to. Having a race on the calendar is a great way to get your butt moving. I know there are some virtual turkey trots too you could sign up for. And if you're a virtual race kind of gal, more power to you. I don't think that's my journey. I don't think virtual races are in my plan. I need people. I need a crowd. I need aid stations. I need a big blow up finish line. I need the cut up fruit and bagels at the end. If that's not there, I'm not doing it. That's what I sign up for when I sign up for a race. I more power to you if you're into the virtual races. I like the medals. I like the whole thing. Okay, now for finance challenge. This one is importante because obvi Christmas is coming, and I just think it's smart to put up a boundary. Otherwise I'm just like, screw it. We will worry about it in January. Spend, swipe, swipe, swipe. So I don't know. A realistic boundary is smart for me. I just know myself too well. Mostly, I think sitting down with B and coming up with a budget for Christmas and sticking to it, no matter what it is, just sticking to it, having a plan and sticking to it, while simultaneously putting money towards our future home will be a win for us. I've talked about this a little bit in past podcasts, where any money that we can save, we're saving it for our future home because that's just going to be our next big investment. And for fun, well, we have 2 weeks of leave coming up, and we are going to fly to Vegas, baby. I have family there, and we want to hang with them for New Year's and go explore Zion. Hopefully COVID doesn't put a damper on this. We're just going to make the plan and go for it. We're going for it. We're wearing our masks. We're sanitizing our hands, going to be safe about it, but we still want to try to do something with the 2 weeks off that we have coming up. I am nervous to fly with the baby, but I'm also excited for the challenge. It's going to be interesting. It'll be crazy, but it'll be good. So yeah, I wanted to put this idea out there for you guys. I think having something to work on and work towards can be a good thing, especially during the holidays when there's added stress, added booze, added sugar, all of that. Let's keep things in balance. Let's keep things in control, the things that we can control, right? And happy holidays. I can't believe it's almost Thanksgiving. I'm so excited. That's it for today, folks. I hope you're having a lovely Tuesday, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to Purdy Girl Podcast. If you have a second, please rate and review and share this podcast with somebody you think would love it. See you next week.